Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and welcome to the second part of the three-part webinar series on Zakat. In the last session on 8th of February, Mufti Yahya Moin uh, addressed the topic of the philosophy and the concept of zakat. Today, he will be talking about the types of wealth that are subject to zakat, where he will discuss in detail on the calculation and also a few misconceptions that are there about zakat. And also at the end, we will have a case study on various types of wealth, inshallah. So Mufti Sahib is joining us from Mumbai. Welcome, Mufti Sahib, and over to you.
جزاكم الله خير. ماشي. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وآتوا حقه يوم حصاده. صدق الله العظيم. Today, inshallah, we shall be discussing more on the wealth on which zakat is necessary, is obligated, and inshallah, we shall also be discussing the method of calculating zakat. So, exactly how do we calculate zakat and what is the formula in this regard?
Mufti Saab, you are on mute, Mufti Saab.
I'm audible now?
Yes,
Yes,
Mufti
Imam.
Saab. Yes.
Jazakallah khair. So the first thing with regards to zakat calculation is that a person needs to have absolute ownership. Absolute ownership and possession is one of the basic requirements of zakat. So any asset that is owned by an individual, or if you look at it, sometimes we do have an asset owned through a business. So a business entity, probably you are a proprietor or a partner in a partnership or in an LLP. So whatever is the person's share is basically owned by you. Similarly, shareholders in a private limited company, public limited company. Basically, absolute ownership, that is something that will require you to pay zakat. So there are certain cases wherein there is no ownership. For example, you have charitable foundations, trusts. Here, there is no ownership here. Hence, the funds of charitable foundations are not zakatable. Similarly, awqaf and waqf properties, waqf funds are not zakatable. Funds of a masjid or madrasa are not zakatable. Public wealth, Baitul Mal, these institutions and these amwal are not zakatable due to no ownership in this case. Thereafter, possession. So possession is of two types. One is actual possession, physical possession. I have something in my hand, or constructive possession. So constructive possession meaning I, the owner, has delegated control or access to another party. So, for example, amana. So, amana or trust, which you have in your hands, is basically the ownership of someone else. So, the owner will pay zakat, and he will be regarded as having possession of that amana, because he is the one who delegated you for that amana. So basically, that is constructive possession, not actual possession. Similarly, assets that you have invested. So you have invested with someone, currently they are not in your possession. But that is basically constructive possession. You have money in your bank account, it's with the bank. But because it is in your account, that is regarded as your possession. Similarly, the issue here comes with regards to rahan or collateral. So something as a security in given in lieu of a loan. So there are two people here. One is the rahin. The rahin is the person who is giving that security. So basically, he is the owner. And the person who has possession, he is the murtahin. So that possession is there as an amana. So he has the possession, the murtahin has the possession, but he is not the owner. And rahin is the owner, but he does not have the possession. So in this case, for example, the loan amount is say 100,000, and if the jewelry or gold, whatever is taken as collateral, is also equal to the amount of the loan, then obviously that amount will not be zakatable. But yes, if the value of the jewelry exceeds the loan, then the exceeding value, the value on that exceeding value, zakat will be applicable. Now, with regards to calculation, individual versus collective calculation, it's very important that Sharia recognizes individual ownership. Sharia recognizes individual ownership, whether it be husband and wife, whether it be father and child. Each and every person has a specific ownership and it has to be segregated. And only one person can be an owner of a particular asset at one particular time. So two people cannot be owners of one asset. Yes, they can have a share in it. So 50-50%, that's fine. Or 60-40, whatever is the share. But one person or two-person cannot own one asset at the same time. So it is only one person that can own that. And the reason why this is important is because zakah is based on that. So if you are not calculating, you don't have your ownership is not specified, then you will not be able to calculate zakat properly. And a very together with zakat, very important aspect or very important faridah of the Sharia, also known as inheritance. Inheritance also is not possible until and unless it is not known that who is the owner of the asset. So we find that there is uh, a lot of discrepancies in this regard with regards to ownership, that who is the owner. There is a lot of ambiguity in this regard. So we find that a person, especially in our cases, in the cases of nikah, so there is a certain amount of jewelry given to the girl child, the bride, by their parents, by her parents, and there is a form of jewelry from the boy's side. Okay? So now, obviously, the girl's side, the girl is the owner. But from the boy's side, who is the owner? There, there is ambiguity in this regard. Generally, according to the urf, according to the custom, this jewelry given from the boy's side is given to the boy. It is only given to the girl to wear it, unless and until it is specified and explicitly stated that the ownership of the jewelry is given to the girl or the bride. Only then she will be regarded as the owner. Now, we need to have clarity in this regard, because there is no clarity. There is an issue with regards to zakat calculation. There is a problem with regards to inheritance. So the husband passes away, the gold is not distributed in inheritance. They say that this is the ownership of the wife. The wife passes away, that same gold is not distributed to the heirs, and it is said that this is the inheritance of the wife. So basically, nobody knows whose inheritance or whose ownership is this. Hence, it is very important. Now, with regards to calculation, once we know that there is a certain amount of ownership, the husband owns a certain assets, the wife owns certain assets, then accordingly the calculation should be separate. not because husband and wife stay in one house, probably they earn in one business, doesn't mean that all their zakat has to be collected. No, it has to be segregated. The wife's assets and the wife's liabilities will be separate. The husband's assets and the husband's liabilities will be separate. To give you an example, a wife has, say, for example, 200 grams of gold as her asset, and she has no liability. So basically, she has to pay zakat on the 200 grams of gold. But now, on the other hand, husband has a debt. There is a business debt. Now, what happens in collective calculation? That debt of the husband is put together, or it deducts the assets of the wife. So basically, the wife did not have any liability at all. But because of the liability of basically merging together the liability of the husband and the wife, we end up with much less zakat than what is liable and what is obligated upon. So this is very important individually. Fathers, many a time it happens, the father is calculating zakat on behalf of his sons as well. If they have their own assets and their own liabilities, their assets and liabilities will be separate. Yes, if the head of the family is the one who calculates everything separately and then makes arrangement for payment, there is no problem in this regard. Now, a misconception: zakat can be given without calculating. So, very important factor that zakat cannot be given without calculating. It's a big misconception here. Many a time we find many people, probably there is a lack of time and they say we got a big business or we got so many assets. We just give, uh, you know, make like a small, uh, with we can say that, on with takhmina or with andaza, and they say that, this is sufficient. This is not sufficient. We have to calculate the assets. We have to calculate the receivables, the liabilities, which liabilities shall be deductible, which shall be not. And then accordingly, we can come to a conclusion. And thereafter, after we come to a conclusion, thereafter, there is no issue in increasing that amount a little so that we end up paying more zakat than what is obligated upon us. And in fact, ulama ikram have written that calculating zakat, that time spent in calculating zakat is as if time spent in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So calculating itself is a form of worship. So this is something that a person should be basically very, you know, uh, in this regard should be very cautious that no type of leeway or negligence will be tolerated. Another misconception: zakat can be calculated collectively. So this was something that I addressed just now. Thereafter, we have one doesn't have to fix a date for zakat calculation. So this is also a misconception. Many a time when we speak to the people, nobody has a date that is fixed already. So we have certain people, they say uh, the month of Ramadan, generally the month of Ramadan is there for zakat. But you cannot keep the entire month as zakat. You have to have one specific date, and that also from the lunar calendar. Either it can be the 15th of Shaban, it can be the 1st of Ramadan. Okay, there are certain people who say, our zakat date is the first week of Ramadan. It fluctuates. No, it shouldn't fluctuate. It has to be only one day. So basically, what is the concept in this regard? The concept in this regard is that this is a date when a person became a sahibun nisab, a person who is the owner of that nisab amount that obligates zakat. Once a person has that amount and 1 year passes, that is when a person is liable to pay zakat. So now that time of the year, that date can fluctuate. Ideally, so for example, a person started working and the first salary that he received was something that over nisab amount, and that salary was date, say for example, the date was in Rabiul Awwal. The next year in Rabiul Awwal and the same day, zakat will be liable. For example, a person, he or she, they were non-baligh, they were not mature, they were not adults. So they had wealth, but they were not mature. So a person who's a child, even if they have wealth, their wealth is not zakatable because they are not mature. But a person became baligh, and once he becomes baligh, say for example, they became baligh in Muharram. So the next year in Muharram, they will have to give zakat in that round. In the same way that we gave an example with regards to marriage, the bride received a large amount of gold jewelry as gifts on the day of her marriage. Now, the next year, on that same day when she was married, that is when she will be liable to pay zakat. Now, what is a nisab? So, zakat is only liable on a person who is the owner of nisab. The nisab amount, to be very simplified for the listeners, it is basically the hadith of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There were two types of nisab. One was the nisab of silver, that was 200 gold coins or 200 dirhams, and the nisab, the other was the nisab of gold, and that is 20 gold coins a dinar. And both of these 200 silver coins and 20 gold coins were of the same value. And at that time, according to certain riwayat and hadith, you find that you could purchase 40 goats, 40 goats from that amount of 20 dinars or 200 dirham. And now what is the rate? We find that converting to the current tolas, it's 7.5 tolas, 7.5 tolas gold, and grams, with regards to grams, is 87.48. 87.48 grams of gold is the nisab of zakat. That comes to around 700,000 rupees approximately. So basically, this is the nisab. So if a person has and is the owner of this much amount, then that person will be liable to pay zakat. Now we have to understand that there is a difference between the nisab of a person who is liable to pay zakat and the nisab of a person who receives zakat, who cannot receive zakat. So now a person, say for example, we come to the types of assets. So all different assets that are there. The different assets that are there are zakatable assets and there are non-zakatable assets. So the non-zakatable assets, even if a person has non-zakatable assets together with the zakatable assets, and the entire amount is crossing 700,000, then that person cannot receive zakat. So inshallah, we will shed some light on the different types of assets later on, inshallah. With regards to hawl is important, like we said, that 1 year has to pass. So many a time, misconception is there where we find that a person says that, or he believes that 1 year has to pass on every wealth that I own. And in fact, this is not the case. 1 year has to pass after you become the owner of nisab. So in your ownership, once you receive the nisab amount, that is when, after your year starts. And once your year has started, it has to, on the next year, when the year finishes, that is when you will be liable to pay zakat. But once you have passed that first year, thereafter, the second year comes, when the time comes, on every wealth, 1 year doesn't have to pass. So say for example, your date of zakat is today, and 2 days ago you received a large amount of money. So that also will be zakatable. That amount that is there at the time of zakat calculation, even though it has been acquired 2 days ago, or 3 days ago, or 10 days ago, that will also be zakatable. Another misconception, zakat should be given only in Ramadan. So it is important to understand that there is no link between zakat and Ramadan. So zakat is a separate faridah, an obligation, and the Sawm of Ramadan is a separate obligation altogether. Zakat should be separate, and it has no link with Ramadan. Like I said, it has a relationship with your becoming the owner of Nisab, and that is possible in any month of the year. That is possible in Muharram, it is possible in Rabiul Awwal, it is possible in Dhul Hijjah or Dhul Qa'dah, or any month. But now we find that there are people who do not remember their actual date of becoming the owner of Nisab. So when you or me, we do not know that, we can stipulate a date from the entire lunar calendar. One date we can stipulate if we are not sure what our zakatable date is. We will stipulate one date, and thereafter we continue to keep that, for calculation. Now, the reason why people would give their zakat in Ramadan is because of the increase in rewards. So each and every fard is equivalent to 70 fard, and that is why people would like to, discharge zakat in Ramadan. However, it is important that the objective is to fulfill the needs and the wants of the needy. So even if in Ramadan or besides Ramadan, there are people who would come, then there should be some people who are giving their zakat outside Ramadan as well. Because many a time we find people going who are needy, but they are rejected and they are said, you must come in Ramadan, that's when you will receive zakat. So that is not what is the objective of Sharia. You can calculate in Ramadan, or you can calculate on your date, you can make Azar in Ramadan, but not the entire zakat in Ramadan. It is better to distribute it around the year. Now, zakat on children's assets. We discussed just now that children that are non-baligh, that have not reached the age of puberty, they have no zakat on their assets. Because zakat is an act of worship, and an act of worship will only be valid after adulthood. But it is very important here to understand the difference between children's assets, because it's important, like I said, to determine the ownership. So who is the owner? For many a time, there are certain assets, money, jewelry, that we dedicate it for the child. So this is for the child, this is for, it's a girl child, it is for her marriage, or XYZ. But this is something which is distinct from granting ownership. We have not made her or him the owner of that asset. They are two different things. If we have just dedicated it for the child, we have just kept it for the child, and many a time it happens that it, in times of need, we tap in and take it. So this is the reason we do not grant ownership. So as long as there is no ownership of the child that will be regarded as your ownership, and you will have to pay zakat on that. Yes, if you have granted total ownership to the child, then obviously those assets will not be zakatable. As far as zakat is concerned, zakat through proxy. So when we speak about zakat, zakat should be, the onus of zakat lies with the owner. So if I am the owner of nisab, I have to pay zakat on that. I have a certain amount of jewelry that is surpassing the nisab, I am liable to pay zakat on that. But it is totally permissible to delegate someone to pay zakat on our behalf. So the husband, in the case of husband and wife, the wife, and if the husband agrees, he can discharge zakat of the wife's jewelry by himself once, if the wife says so, if the wife does not have the funds. But however, it is necessary to inform. So if the husband is discharging zakat of the wife's jewelry without informing the wife, then that zakat is not discharged. Because it is an act of worship, she has to know, she has to be informed, and she has to give the consent. Unless that happens, that will not be valid. Similarly, if the father is discharging zakat from the son's assets and the son don't even know, so many a time it happens is after bulugh they became baligh, the son became baligh, and the father is discharging zakat on their wealth, but they have not, the father does not inform the children or the son, then this will not be valid. As far as zakat is concerned, is it necessary to inform the recipient when I'm giving zakat? No, it is not necessary to inform the recipient. You can give zakat in the guise of a loan. You can give zakat in the guise of a gift, Rehbar, on any occasion. So informing the recipient is necessary. Is it not? Is not necessary. However, what is necessary is the intention. So the intention of zakat is important. And the intention of zakat, it can be at two junctures. One, the fuqaha rahimahumullah say, in the azlihi min al-mal. So when I am segregating that zakat amount from my actual wealth, that is the time I make an intention. So I calculated zakat, and once that amount is certain, I'm certain of that amount, I remove that amount and make it separate, say like a separate envelope, and label it as zakat. So at that time, I have that intention of zakat. And then thereafter, I can spend from that envelope, and I won't need to have zakat intention again thereafter. Another possibility is at the time of actually giving and handing it over to the poor. So when I'm handing it over to the poor, at that time, the intention is necessary. So these are the two places where intention is valid and intention is necessary. Now, turning the loan into zakat. Many a time people ask this question, and that is that you gave a loan to a person and he is in no way, he cannot pay it back basically due to his condition or situation. Now people come and ask, is there a way to convert this loan into zakat? Because that person is already zakat eligible. So this is not possible. Converting your loan into zakat is not possible. Yes, it would have been possible if at the time of giving that loan, you had that idea and you made the intention of zakat. So you told him you're giving a loan, but you made the intention of zakat. So it is entirely possible in this case that uh, you can consider it zakat. However, there is another way wherein what people do is, so there is a person who has to pay you a large amount and he basically is not able to pay you. So what the people do is they give them a portion of their money, a portion of their zakat, and then ask him to repay that loan from that amount. Nowadays we find people doing it a lot. So this is, to a certain extent is fine. Technically it is fine. But if you look at it, this is basically eliminating the actual objective of zakat altogether. So zakat is basically being spent, and the entire zakat is being spent in getting your money back from a person who is probably a regular defaulter. Many a time people what they do is they once again they give money to defaulters because they know that they can settle it off in zakat. So this is something which is uh, basically going against the core objective of zakat. As far as zakat in advance, we find that it was in the time of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had asked Hazrat Abbas radiallahu anh to pay zakat of the previous years or zakat in advance. And with regard to zakat on missed years, so zakat on missed years, those zakats that a person has missed, uh, obviously it has to be calculated, but it will be calculated according to the Yawmul Wujub, not Yawmul Ada. Yawmul Wujub meaning, so you have the past 10 years if a person has not paid zakat, he will calculate the assets that he has, for example, gold, silver, or foreign currency, or whatever assets that he has, according to the day on that year. So starting from, say, now it's 2025. So 2015. So what was the rate of gold at that time? And then accordingly, each and every year, one is able to find it on the internet. And in this way, you have the zakat on missed years will be distributed and will be calculated. Now, we come to al-haja al-asliya. Al-haja al-asliya meaning the basic needs. So when we speak about zakat, the things that are exempt from zakat is the basic needs. So ليس في the hadith of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam عبده ولا في فرسه صدقة. So a person who has a slave for his own khidmah, a person who has a means of conveyance, a car, a house to live in, clothing, all these things are regarded as haja asliya, basic necessities and basic needs, and these are exempt from zakat. In the same way, we have non-zakatable assets. So assets that don't have zakat, we have sometime, many a time, these assets might be very valuable. So you have pearls, diamonds, precious stones. So these pearls, diamonds, precious stones, there is no zakat on these. Yes, there is no zakat on the things of need, of requirement. A person might need cars. A person might need two-wheelers. A person might need different types of machinery. A person might need books to read. So all these things are not zakatable. A person uh, he's owning a house, probably a few uh, more than a crore rupees, but that also will not be zakatable. Now, what exactly zakat is obligated on? So zakat is basically gold, silver, Gold, silver in any form is zakatable. So you can have gold uh, embroidery, gold decorative plates, gold utensils, any type of gold, silver in any form, coins, jewelry, all is zakatable, gold and silver. And by extension, currency. So all types of currency. With regards to gold, zakat on gold will be on the selling price of gold. So with regards to evaluation, uh, if I have jewelry at home, the price that I will get when I sell it off, that is the price that on which I have to calculate zakat. So one is you will go on the internet and you can see the rate of gold today. But when you go to the local jeweler, he will not give you that rate. He will say, for example, reduce 20%, 30%, whatever is that amount, and then he will give you that selling price. That is the price wherein you discharge zakat on. So it's very important, however, that if we have jewelry, on every set of jewelry, we need to have some specifications with regards to the weight. So in this set, probably it's a bangle, it's a bracelet, or whatever. What is the weight of gold? And what is the level of purity? So purity, generally, the jewelry is 22 carats. Certain jewelry is 18 carats. And there is also differences here and there. But we need to know which the jewelry that we have, what is the weight of gold or silver, and what is the purity, the level of purity. And accordingly, we can calculate the gold value, the selling price value, or is also known as the scrap value. Here, a very important point that the zakah calculation with regards to gold, especially the evaluation of the general public, is different, and a person who is a jeweler, that is also different. So, in respect of evaluation, a jeweler, because they have a business in it and that jewelry will be regarded as business stock, so that evaluation will be different. And here, for a person, a normal person who is not buying and selling gold, but rather he has kept gold for use or for whatever reason, that gold will be evaluated differently. With regards to cash, so cash is all types of cash. You can have cash in hand, petty cash, bank balances, savings uh, in your bank accounts, bank balances, fixed deposits. So then you have nowadays wallets, electronic wallets, foreign currency, cryptocurrency. All these 100% zakatable, and probably certain types of funds wherein the money has been kept, investment funds, in the same way, equities and shares. So all this will be basically cash. And together with it, we have a provident fund. So that amount also will be zakatable. Thereafter, the third aspect that is zakatable, or which is a zakatable asset, is amal tijara. Amal tijara meaning anything a person buys with the intention of reselling. So it's very important. I don't have to be a businessman to have amal tijara. I can be a normal person, a professional, but I might have bought an asset to sell it. So there are people who go in certain countries and they buy phones, laptops, just to sell. So even though he does not have a proper business of that, of laptops or phones, but if he has an asset that is for selling, which has been brought for selling, then obviously that will be regarded as mal tijara. So non-zakatable assets, but with the intention of sale, will become zakatable assets. But here it is important, the two factors are important. One is to buy with the intention of resale. So if an asset comes into your ownership without buying, so somebody gives you, or somebody you receive in your inheritance an asset, and then thereafter you intend to sell that, that will not be malu tijara. So the first aspect, the first element is to buy it. The second is the intention of selling, to buy with the intention of resale. And the third is that the intention of selling should remain till the zakatable day. So that is when you are calculating zakat. So when that intention of zakat of reselling goes away or it does not remain, then once again it will not be categorized as mal tijara. As far as the valuation of trade stock is concerned, valuation of trade stock, so it is basically selling price. Selling price, if there is a fluctuating selling price, then you make an average. Uh, there is also the selling price has to be according to the the business. So if it's a wholesale business, it's a retail business, accordingly, wholesale or retail. If there is a mixed, so for example, there is wholesale as well as retail business in a certain shop, then you can evaluate also accordingly 50-50% or 60-40, whatever is the ratio. Valuation of trade stock, another type wherein ulama ikram have also said that whatever stock that I have today, the basically if I sell the entire stock to someone, so what price will I sell it on? That price also could be used for assessing or evaluating the trade stock. However, it is important that in evaluation, a person does not calculate according to the purchase price. So many a time we look at the balance sheet and the documents, wherein we find that the price that is written there is a purchase price. The price is the cost price, whereas zakat is liable on the selling price and the current selling price of the business inventory on the trade stock. Thereafter, you have receivables. So receivables also is a very important form of an asset. So this will form a part of your asset. So the assets that we uh, till now, as far as the zakatable assets are, there is gold, silver in any form, cash and its variants, and mal tijara. And now together with that, there is the receivables. So the receivables, there are of two types: zakatable receivables and non-zakatable receivables. So zakatable receivables, obviously, uh, the things that are in lieu of uh, selling the mal tijara or loan that you have forwarded to people, qard, security deposits, that's zakatable receivables. Non-zakatable receivables, you will find in this case wherein the things that you have received, that you probably receive, which are not due or by, a mal tijara. So you receive receivables, you're supposed to receive something, a gift, inheritance, or salary that you're supposed to receive. All these will be non-zakatable receivables. When we speaking about receivables, a category that comes is bad debts. So one is it is a receivable, but when do we categorize it as a bad debt? So as long as me and you, something that is coming, we are hopeful that it will come and we will receive it, then that will be termed as a receivable, and that will not be bad debt. But if we feel that there is no chance, now there is no hope of receiving something, then that becomes a doubtful debt, or uh, maluk damar, also known as maluk damar, bad debt. Uh, it is also possible that a debt might be partially doubtful. So if someone owes me 100,000, I believe that I won't be getting 100,000 back, only 50,000 I'll be getting back. So I will be calculating only the 50,000. Similarly, as far as outstanding are concerned, so gifts and awards, non-zakatable, receivables, inheritance, shares, non-zakatable. Now, once we finish this, so these are the assets are done. After the assets, we need to remove the liabilities. So after that, we have the liabilities, and liabilities are also of two types. One is the deductible liabilities. So deductible liabilities and non-deductible liabilities. So one is loan or any type of thing that we ought to pay. That amount, if that is immediately payable, that amount will be deducted. Similarly, short-term loans are deductible and long-term loans are not deductible. So now what is the difference between the short-term and the long-term loans? So ulama ikram have specified that 1 year. So the loans that I have to pay in the next 1 year, those loans will be deducted, and after that won't be deducted. So if it's a long-term loan, 12 months, next 12 month installments will be deducted, and thereafter it won't be deductible. So these are deductible liabilities. Any type of any liability that has already been, it has already, the contract has already been done. It has come as a liability that will basically be deductible. But future liabilities cannot be deductible. You say, for example, you have already signed a contract and you owe someone, and that obviously will be regarded as a liability. Taxes of the current month, that will be a deductible liability, but taxes of future months will not be a deductible liability. So, yes, and a liability incurred already, payable probably in the next month, no problem, that can also be deducted. So, deductible loans, zakat, deductible liabilities, and non-deductible liabilities, that is loans that are surpassing the 12-month installments. So now this is basically the formula of zakat that we have, and that is that one is we have the assets, zakatable assets. Together with that, zakatable receivables. So zakatable assets plus zakatable receivables minus deductible liabilities will give you equal the net amount of your exact wealth. And once that wealth, you determine that amount, thereafter 2.5% on that will be the basically zakat. Now we come to zakat calculation on business. When we're speaking about business, basically majorly there are three types of businesses. So one is a business uh, as far as the service sector is concerned. So wherein, say for example, a hospital, school, there is an accountant firm, a law firm. So here there are services that are given and profit is taken into of that. Another type of business is revenue is generated by renting something. So you will have shadi halls or companies which rent or lease furniture, or we have Rehbar, the investment in businesses where most of the assets are fixed assets on a lease basis. So that is a type of business. Another type of business is manufacturing. We have manufacturing, sale for sale. Here there are factors of production. There is machinery. There is raw materials, and so on. So here it is important that zakat is not due on fixed assets. Zakat is not due on capital goods. Zakat is not due on factors of production. Zakat is not due on income generating assets. So operational fixed assets, there is no zakat, non-zakatable asset. Example, you have the premises, you have the company, office there, or the factory there, equipment, movable assets of operation, you have certain cars for transportation, spare parts and tools used for production, plants and equipment, capital and fixed goods, fixtures, furnitures, fittings, collaterals. In the same way, those assets that are intangible assets that are not sourced or developed for trade. So copyright, patents, trademarks, software, logo. Obviously, this is an IT company, then obviously this will be different. But here, uh, in general business, where there are intangible assets, here these assets will not be zakatable. Yes, the items which are for sale, wherein there are raw materials, there are unfinished goods, a work in process, there are finished goods. So all these will be zakatable. For example, there is a textile manufacturing unit. So there is cotton, there is thread, raw materials. These are raw materials, and they will also on the day of zakat, these raw material also will have to be calculated according to the market value. In raw materials, one is the primary materials, so normally used as ingredients and remain as components of the manufactured project or the product. These are zakatable, and at the same time there are some wrapping and packaging material that increases the value of the finished goods. It also is zakatable. For example, in cases of perfume, there are bottles. So very fancy bottles. Obviously, this also is zakatable. Versus cartons. So cartons for transformation, this is not zakatable. Similarly, industrial accessories are not zakatable. No zakat on supporting materials that are not ingredients. For example, there is fuel, cleaning materials, there is no zakat. As far as other income is concerned, there is a certain second income stream or third income stream. Those also will be zakatable. Uh, as far as wastage is concerned, so direct wastage of the raw materials, that also will be zakatable. And a third type of business is basically a trading concern. So in a trading concern, you have the infrastructure, the movable or immovable assets. Then there is a, with regards to zakat, all these things there is no not zakatable. Yes, the trade stock will be zakatable, business inventory will be zakatable. A very important point here to understand is that zakat can be given out in the form of stocks also. So a person, say for example, there is a company of textile company. So zakat can be given in kind. So if the clothes, as far as clothes are given to the people, this is also possible in the form of clothes. So zakat in the form of clothes, zakat in the form of grains can also be given. But it's very important here that to evaluate accordingly, and actually we have to be very fair in evaluating it. So there is a certain stock that we are removing zakat. Very important that we evaluate it properly. We do not overvalue it. If there is a type of stock that is old stock, outdated stock, obviously we have to evaluate it accordingly. So we bought it for 100,000. It doesn't mean currently its actual value is probably 50,000. So we have to, if we discharge that in zakat, then we will have to put the value of 50,000 on. We cannot put the value of 100,000. There is a certain amount of defective stock. That stock also will go, can give it in zakat, but can go according to basically the value that it actually has in the market, according to the market value. But also very important that to give your zakat, entire zakat through this means is not preferable nor advisable. Because in the time of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the hidayah that they were sent, the amilin or the collectors, zakat collectors, they were told that you should collect zakat not from the best nor from the worst, but from the medium quality goods. So here, if a person is removing his entire zakat through outdated stock or dead stock, then it is not advisable. Yes, what he can do is 20 to 25% zakat can be removed through outdated or old stock, and then thereafter the remaining zakat should be discharged through cash or some other manner. As far as businesses with regards to franchisee or partnerships in goodwills or businesses with regards to such items with regard they're related which are not non-storable as far as electricity is concerned. So those businesses are very a bit complicated, and if someone has any such query in this regard, then we can address it exclusively, inshallah. This there is a case study here. So we just to understand exactly where these things will be, like in which the asset class or non-asset class, or will it be, deductible or not. So the first thing, number one, is business stock, electronics. Obviously, business stock is zakatable. Personal home. Personal home is not zakatable. It is an asset for use, not zakatable asset. Number three, fixed deposit. Fixed deposit amount in the bank, that obviously will be zakatable because it is something in cash. Very important to understand that the cash in any form, regardless of the intention. So a person might have kept the cash for a basic necessity, example, buying a home. That also will not make a difference. As long as it is in the form of cash, it will be zakatable. Gold jewelry, 100 grams, 22 carat, according to this is the basically it will be zakatable. Car for personal use, obviously not zakatable because it is a non-zakatable asset. It is an asset of personal use. Foreign currency, evaluation zakatable. Trade receivables. So trade receivables are uh, such receivables that are zakatable. So zakatable receivables also will be included in the assets. Overdue tax liabilities. So tax liabilities that are already overdue, this will be a liability and this will be deductible from the deductible liability. Trade payables. So trade payables, something that you have to pay, it's a liability, you have to pay. Crypto investment, obviously that there is a, here we are not speaking about the Sharia compliance of crypto investment. This is from the Zakat perspective. Pension fund, mandatory fund, obviously it is zakatable. Now there is I would like to make clarify a certain issue with regards to provident fund. So previously, because of the structure of the PPF, the provident fund, ulama had stated that the mandatory PF is not zakatable. But now, because there has been a change in the entire setup of the provident fund structure, in wherein entire a trust is made by the company, wherein all the employees are made the trustees, and in that trust the amount, the PF amount is basically deposited, and as well as the employer's contribution is also deposited there. So in this case, it is very clear and apparent that the employees will become the owners, and to a certain extent they can withdraw without together with certain restrictions, they can withdraw the amount as well. So they will be regarded as owners in the case of zakat, and this will also affect the increase, the permissibility of the increased amount taking, whether it will be regarded as interest or not. So that also will be affected. Move on to short-term business loan due within a year. So this is with regards to due within a year, 12-year installments. So liabilities, deductible liability, shares held for long-term investment. Yes, we were discussing shares with regards to zakat on shares. One is a person who trades, who is a trader, short-term trader, long-term trader. As far as he's a trader, he's trading in stock or shares is his amwal tijara, or mainly business stock. So it will be zakatable on the entire wealth, on the market value of the entire shares that he owns on the zakatable date. Whereas on the other hand, a person who is a long-term investor, he is not trading in zakat, but is long-term, on a long-term basis, he is investing. So here, zakat is only on the zakatable assets of the companies. So each and every company, ideally, the company should give you the information. But if possible, if you can get the information from the uh, the balance sheet, basically the very an easy way is to determine the fixed assets, non-zakatable assets. So the furnitures and fixtures, the factors of production with regards to machinery and fixed assets. All these, if it is possible to make note of that, then the remaining assets will be zakatable. If it is not possible for you to calculate, then it will be zakatable on the entire value. So shares held for long-term investment. If a person is able to find out the zakatable assets of the company, then it will only be zakatable on the zakatable assets. Jewelry for children. So jewelry for children, we said that jewelry which has already been given in the ownership of children, that will be exempt from zakat as long as they do not become baligh. Cash in hand, or which is zakatable. Sukuk, which is the Sharia compliant investment, which is zakatable. Savings account, zakatable. Office equipment is non-zakatable. Rent received in advance. Rent received in advance is also zakatable. Shares for trading. That is obviously full zakatable on the market value. Prepaid expenses. Prepaid expenses non-zakatable. Security deposits for electricity connection. Yes, the deposits for connections that you have, that is basically it will be a liability for you. But if you regard it as a qarz, so qarz it should also be an asset, a receivable asset as a qarz. So security deposits will be as a dayn qawi, and it will be a receivable, zakatable receivable. A receivable personal loan given to a friend. Okay, personal loan given to a friend, obviously it is also zakatable. Business loan given to others, so recoverable. So it's not a bad debt. It will be zakatable as a receivable, zakatable receivable. Loan against gold. So gold pawned 100,000 and loan 50,000. So here there will be zakat only on the 50,000, the amount that exceeds the actual gold value, that will be zakatable. Inherited property, obviously not zakatable. Personal loan from a friend, okay, so this will be zakatable due soon. Gold coins, bad debts, not zakatable. I said bad debts is when you basically lose hope that you will receive any amount, that will be regarded as a bad debt. Mahr receivable, retirement fund contributions by the employer. Now here, with regards to the PF, this will also change because this will also become zakatable because the entire amount is being uh, now being owned by the employee. Inventory of raw materials is also zakatable. Mobile phones of personal use obviously not zakatable because this is amongst hadith al-asliya. This is whatever the basically the end of the slide, and inshallah we can open the forum for any Q&A, any question and answers if there is.
Jazakallah khairan, Mufti Sahib. There's quite a few queries that have come. I've noted them down, so inshallah we'll take them one by one. First question is, I disburse some of my zakat every month to a madrasa and welfare organization. On what basis should I calculate my zakat, considering that the gold price 6 months ago was different from today's price?
So, like I said, disperse some of my zakat every month to a madrasa. So zakat is not calculated on a monthly basis. Zakat calculated on an annual basis. And like we answered basically this question, that one date has to be stipulated. And on that date, the price of gold will be evaluated and accordingly it will be, zakat will be calculated.
Second question is, I purchased a piece of land 9 months ago for approximately 12 lakhs, and now its value has increased to around 16 lakhs. How should I calculate zakat on this property based on the current value or the purchase price?
So basically, zakat is liable on this property or not will depend on the intention of the purchaser. If it has been purchased with the intention of resale, only then will there be zakat on its current value.
I own a house and have constructed an additional house which I am renting out. I also own another piece of land that I purchased for construction purpose, but I may sell it if I receive a good price. Do I need to include this land in my zakat calculation as well?
No, so basically, if you say that the purchase for construction purposes, so that's your primary intention. For a land to be zakatable, your primary intention should be for resale. So here, if I may sell it, if I receive a good price, this is not a primary intention, is not resale. So it will not be included in zakat calculation.
Can we start giving some amount of zakat from the start of the year and calculate zakat at the end of the year?
Sure, you can do that because advance zakat is also permissible.
This is regarding capital gain tax. If I sell my shares today, I will need to pay corresponding capital gains tax as applicable when I file my returns. So real value of the asset is stock price minus capital gain tax to be paid. So for the purpose of zakat calculation, do we use just the market value of the stocks or market value minus capital gains tax as the value of the asset? Tax can be 20% for short term or 12.5% for long term.
See, in this regard, it is important to understand that we can only, the tax will only be liable after selling. So when you are calculating zakat, it doesn't mean that you have sold uh, the stocks. It is possible that you don't sell the stock for the next year. So that 20% or 12% will not be liable to you. Zakat, the tax is on the capital gains. The capital gain only will materialize after selling that stock. So once you sell that stock and that liability of that short 20% or 12.5% has been incurred, then you can deduct that amount, no problem. But just by assuming that I will sell and this will be the issue or this will be the liability. Uh, you cannot deduct that with your the market value. You will have to calculate according to the market value. And if you are selling, also for example, you have sold already on the day of the zakat, then you can minus or you can deduct the zakatable, oh sorry, the taxable amount as a liability. I don't know if
But
I'm able to understand.
anytime you sell, it's you always, but anytime you sell, you will have to pay the tax, right? So the real value of the asset is going to be the market value minus the tax at any point in time of sell it today, tomorrow, one after 1 year, after 10 years. So I'm just wondering that do you still have to include the I mean do it at the market price, irrespective of the tax to be paid at a later date, because the real
So,
value of the asset is going to be whatever you get after selling the asset minus the
so
taxes.
you see, when we calculate zakat, a basic thing that we have to understand is that we are calculating zakat according to the current date. So we are going to include the current liabilities. We are not going to include future liabilities. So if you are not selling that stock probably for the next 3 years, you will not be liable for that tax. You will only
Mufti
be
Sahab,
liable if you sell it in this amount. Ji.
uh, just to get a clarification on this, because I'm sure a lot of people have same doubt. I also had the same doubt, right? So two aspects to this. One is that we are considering the stocks to be equivalent of cash, and hence it is zakatable because it is just like cash. But if it has to be just like cash, then I have to sell it to be able to realize it. That's one. And the second is that you mentioned when gold, you're looking at the price of gold for calculating the zakat, you are looking at it at the scrap value. So it is the price that you will get after the purchaser of the gold eliminates all the other overheads and takes his profit and all. So in the same fashion, when I have to convert this shares into cash, then what I will get is effectively the market value minus the tax that is liable.
You
So
see,
why isn't it similar?
I'll explain. I'll explain. You see, when we spoke about the scrap value in gold, so that basically is the selling price, the selling value. So at the time when I go to the jeweler, that amount that I am going to receive, that is something that I have to pay, calculate according to that. Now, as far as shares is concerned, currently that I have, number one, it is not equivalent to cash. That is why we find that if a person does not intend the trade, then he has only to pay on the zakatable assets. If there are no zakatable assets in the company, then there is no zakat. For example, I give you an example of Rehbar. So Rehbar, if majority of their assets are leasable assets, so assets that they have given for lease, then there will be no basically zakat on uh, this thing on the shares of Rehbar.
Yeah, but most people who would invest through mutual funds, where it's going to be a mixture of 15 companies or 40 companies or whatever, where it's going to be impossible to find out the zakatable assets.
Yeah, if a mutual fund, then you have to pay on the full value because mutual fund utilizes that or buys and sells shares as uh, basically a business asset. So business when we that is why you see uh, I told I just gave an indication also that there will always be a difference between the evaluation of gold for a normal layman and for a jeweler. So for a normal layman, I said that this will be the issue, but at the same time, for a person who is the jeweler, who regards that as a trade stock, for him the making charges also, the actual the time, the whatever is the the price on the day, probably he might add making charges, add 10%, 5%, whatever is that, that will also be included. He will have to include while calculating that. So here in the case of mutual funds, it is regarded as a trade stock. So trade stock, this will be calculated according to the value. As far as the tax is concerned, if the tax is liable, you are liable to pay tax now, there is a liability now, then you will be able to deduct it. If there is a liability in future, then you cannot deduct it when you are calculating tax now, zakat now. So basically, this is a basic difference. And if there is an issue, we can discuss it later on, inshallah.
Yeah, let's discuss, because I can then Nozul, I can then cheat, on the day of the zakat, one day before I sell the taxes, sell my shares, and and then I buy it again the day after I know my zakat collection date is done. So just to
You
save
can
on
do
that.
that. You can do that. If you do that, then
No,
that amount will be deductible because it
yeah,
is a liability.
yeah, but my need is not to cheat, but okay, we can discuss this maybe offline. Not. Sorry.
Okay, moving on, regarding investment in Rehbar, like Mufti Saab said, so we say that 50% is the zakatable amount, although it is less than that. So if you see in the Rehbar portal, if you have invested 2 lakhs, we show 1 lakh as zakat amount. Could you please explain why this is the case and on what basis the amount is shown as 1 lakh? So just for clarification, we have 3 types of investments that we make: leasing, profit and loss sharing, and project finance. So the leasing, which is more than 50%, usually around 60 to 70%, is in leasing. Like Mufti Saab said, there is no zakat on that. But on the remaining portion, which could be will always be less than 50%, on that there is zakat because it is in working capital. So that's why we show on the safer side that you can pay on 50%. Moving on, a person having 2 tola gold plus savings from salary equal to nisab, is he liable for zakat? I think what they're asking is the
So
gold plus the
basically,
savings is equivalent to nisab. Is he liable for zakat?
so if it is equivalent to the gold nisab, that is 7.5 or 87.5 grams of gold, then obviously you will be liable. And if it is less than that, then no.
And I think regarding Ramadan, associating zakat with Ramadan, the question came that when would the person that collect the zakat during the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's time?
Yeah, so basically, it was not, it has, like I said, it has no connection with Ramadan.
After becoming Sahib in Nisab, a person loses money and the wealth falls below the Nisab. If then he earns wealth and it becomes above Nisab, can the person wait for 1 year of possession before paying zakat?
No, a person cannot wait for 1 year unless and until he becomes totally zero. So ulama have written that if the wealth dips below nisab, is no problem unless and until both the ends of the year is above nisab. So when the year is culminating, at that time, if it is above nisab, then you will be liable to pay zakat. Unless and until what happens is the entire amount goes zero or it goes into minus, and then what will happen is thereafter this howl will fall away, and once again a new howl will start after he becomes the Malik of Nisab.
There's some opinion that if the jewelry is for regular use, then there is no zakat on that. Where does that opinion come from?
So basically, this is according to Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayh, and many a time this is also misunderstood. So basically, what Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayh says is that portion of the jewelry that a girl or a female owns, which she utilizes it on a daily basis. So there is a probably a few bangles and earrings and probably one or two more other assets which are utilized on a daily basis. Those are exempt from zakat. That is according to Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayh. And the remaining jewelry that she has, probably she uses it on occasions or seldom she utilizes it, she also has to pay zakat on that. So basically, uh, not much of a difference. Ji.
There are different opinions on calculating zakat on shares, market value approach, zakatable assets approach, and 25% approach. Which one is more correct?
So basically, market value approach is there on the trade stock, if you will, for trading. Zakatable assets approach is which has been prescribed by ulama for uh, long-term investment. And the 25% approach is basically, it is not a separate approach. It is basically the zakatable assets approach, which has been, uh, stipulated to 25% by certain scholars. But that is not relevant to us because it has been stipulated in the UK market, FTSE, the index. So it is not relevant here. Ji.
According to my understanding, it appears that zakat on real estate is more favorable compared to other asset classes. For example, if I buy a flat worth 10 lakhs, zakat is applicable only on the rent from the flat. But if I buy gold or stocks, zakat is applicable on the entire amount. I think it's an observation.
Sure. So it's fine. Basically, you see, there are certain things. Basically, we have to understand that zakat is an act of worship. So many things are there which do not appeal to our mind. Also, like for example, you have zakat on pearls and diamonds. Like pearls and diamond precious stones are one of the best, the most valuable things, but there is no zakat on it. So there is something, certain things which are, when as far as ibadat is concerned, we have to rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Uh, what about, sorry, is zakat on provident fund that lies with the government applicable each year or the time when you actually receive that PF, say when you retire?
Uh, you see, like I also mentioned that now PF, the entire structure has changed, and hence the ruling also will change accordingly. So provident fund, once upon a time it was would have been there by the government, but now the entire, like I said, basically a trust is formed, and all the employees are made trustees, and each and every person has their own account, and they can see how much amount is there. Basically, they are owners. We cannot say they are not owners. They, in fact, they own the employer's contribution as well, and hence it will be safe to say that they are in the ownership, and they will have to calculate zakat every year.
No, but the employees and the employers provident, I mean, contribution they're held in the government's EPFO. It's not a company trust. It's an organization that is owned by the government. Where they collect from all the companies. So I'm just wondering that what do you mean by a company trust? It's
So
owned by the government.
you see the PF, the currently the structure of the government that uh, the trust is made by the PF by the company, wherein all the employees are the basically beneficiaries of the trust. So if that is the issue, that is something which has come to our notice recently, and hence we have changed our position with regards to PF.
Um, Actually, it's both ways, Mufti Saab. What our brother is saying is also true, and what you are saying is also true. The structure is mostly dependent from one has to look at what the company is actually following. There are not a set of standard in it.
Okay, so basically, it depends on the company. That's what you say.
Correct.
So
So
not all companies are, but as far as the new laws are concerned, uh, it is supposed to be applicable on everyone.
I will have to check which new law you are referring to. I haven't checked it. But as much as I have seen in the last 2, 3 years, at least till last 2 years, I'm sure, I've seen companies following both the structures. So it is applicable on both sides.
Okay, that's fine. But we have some more clarity because recently we have discussed this issue with a person who is in the provident fund department from Hyderabad, and I am in
Yeah,
touch with him.
I am sure. I'm sure what you are saying is right. Actually, if you look at HP,
Can,
Heavyweights and Packard,
can I add something here?
yeah,
So both ways of PF contribution is correct. Some of the companies, what they do is they create a trust and then maintain the PF amount internally. And most of the companies across India, they work with PF organization where the amount is getting saved in the PF, which is in a government organization. So only few of them are there like creating a trust and maintaining the PF amount.
agreed. Sulaiman bhai, that's also what I'm trying to say.
Like, yeah, we have a UN number which is allocated, and then you can see your PF online, but that's with the government, it's not with the.
Yes.
Correct.
So if we try to break this down into numbers, then almost 80% of the companies in India are maintaining the amount with government. Only 20% are creating a trust and maintaining internally.
And there is a third structure also where people are not maintaining EPFO, but they're investing directly into NPS.
That
And that
is
is also a valid structure.
no, that is not true. NPS and EPF are still applicable for the government employees, provided they have opted. So it is by force enforced on the government employees to invest in both EPF and NPS because
No, private companies. Private companies.
private companies, if you are a contractor, then EPF will not be applicable and NPS is optional. So
Correct.
whenever you are a contractor, it's by default no PF.
So which is why most people will have the option. It depends upon which company they are working for and what that company is offering them.
Correct.
It would be a more, it's a nuanced approach.
Yes. So in PF, two options. One is trust, which is like only few companies opt, and most 80% of the companies go with government
So,
savings.
mashallah, Jazakallah khair, Sulaiman bhai. So, accordingly, inshallah, what we do with regards to the PF, because of this new development that we have, inshallah, let me study it further, and I will release a statement on this, inshallah, on both in both conditions. What will happen accordingly, inshallah.
Inshallah. Next is what about zakat on shares of unlisted companies which is not yet sellable in the market?
Yes, there will be zakat depending on the intention. If he's intending to, for basically trade, then obviously it will be there on the, he will be asked, need to ask share the value as well as the zakatable assets as well.
Okay. Zakat on gold is after the nisab or for entire gold?
Entire.
I have invested 10 lakhs in a real estate project 7 months ago, and the project is expected to be completed after 1 more year from today. So, what is the standing of zakat in this case?
So, what is the current value of the real estate project? So, because you see the real estate projects, they have a certain value before inception, at the time of inception, and probably if it's down halfway down, there is another value. So accordingly, at whatever stage it is, at the time of the day of zakat, accordingly it will be valued.
So, there is zakat on the real estate project investment?
Yes, because there is a real estate investment, and they want the objective is to resell
Okay, if the
and
object is to resell.
gain profits.
Okay, but if the object is to keep the asset for own use or to rent it out, then there is no zakat.
There is no object.
Okay. So, I think that's all the queries we have so far.
That's it. Okay, ciao.
So, Jazakallah khair, Mufti Sahib, and thanks everyone for staying with us almost 1.5 hours, mashallah. Inshallah, the recording will be shared and the presentation as well, and we'll be in touch, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Subhanallah, bihamdi, subhanakallah.
الله الحمد سبحانك الله الحمد أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين الحمد لله